with such differences in competitiveness, in other words, the ability to produce cheaply, be it because of the level of technology, the level of wages, etc., you're going to have imbalances. Now, you will have lots of money coming in to, say, Germany, because, for example, they build the best mechanical equipment. And how can Greek industry compete with German industry given their level of technology? Mm-hmm. The only way for a weaker economy to deal with this used to be to devalue their currency. That was usually used to fix the imbalance, because when you devalue, the domestic product can compete with the imported one.
So can't they just increase German wages?
That's exactly what Germany did not do for the last decade or so. Say you want to have a monetary union. Anyway, okay, bring together these economies. Take the first step towards a federation, if you like. Well, then you need to have it crystal clear in your mind that every economy has its own place in the division of labor, the international division of labor or the European division of labor. What the European elites are failing to see is that you can't force 19 different national economies to become a copy of each other. And Germany being the most competitive, force 18 countries to be like Germany, you know?
Yeah, I want to explain this so Americans can understand, because I like to draw these parallels. I think the best way for Americans to think of European countries, I always say, are like states. Like, for example, California exports more produce than it imports, while Ohio has a steel industry, for example. Now, I have never thought, and I don't think any other Americans think of one state against another, having one state having trade deficits or trade surpluses. Obviously, this is mainly based on where the natural resources are and what the climate supports, meaning does that climate support that industry? But why do Europeans think of it this way, as separate?
That's actually a great question. That, I think, is because for Americans, this is self-evident. You have states in the US that always had trade surpluses and always will have trade surpluses. And then you've got other states always having trade deficits. What's different in America are two things. Number one, the federal government helps to even out these imbalances by giving incentives for industry to go and build factories at deficit areas, for example, like forcing defense contractors to build here or there. And number two, the United States tolerates state bankruptcies without this insane threat of an eviction from the dollar zone.
That's really funny and really clear. We would never evict somebody in a different state from the dollar.
You never had a governor or a state with a strong economy. A governor with a strong economy saying that another state must change its policy or be expelled from the dollar. That would be unthinkable for Americans. So what you need is something like that. You need to have a plan on how capital flows coming into Germany in the form of industry profits, because other countries are buying their product, return to the surrounding weaker countries in the form of investment.
Okay, so while we in America have different states with competing and complementary economies that are then balanced by the federal government, the Euro scheme never had that in its planning.
No, it didn't. What they actually did was leave this to the banks. Just leave it to the banks. And we all know what a mess the banks can bring once you give them the power to plan the economy. Once the profits came into Germany, they filled the German banks with deposits. Okay, money that these banks then had to somehow put to use somewhere. And of course, banks have no idea what productive investment is, because, they're short-sighted by nature, by being banks.
Right. So, we know in America, too, what happens when the national economic planning is left to the bankers. I mean, that's been the history of our struggle here. So they give the funds to wealthy investors or stock jobbers, hedge fund, derivative sellers, So the European banking system did something similar, and then they obviously made a mess of it.
Predictably so. What they found was they could get great returns for this money if they lent it to the weaker states. And so these bubbles were formed. The banking bubble in Ireland is an example. The housing price bubble in Spain, and the public debt in Greece. All of them examples of bubbles formed by money that had nowhere else to go.
Okay. So what are the trouble spots in Europe? Meaning, where do people want to see their money invested? Like here in the United States, it's obvious to us that we have terrible public transportation and we need urgent investment in crumbling infrastructure, and we have a lot of people out of work, etc. It goes on. We know what we need. How could Europe put people back to work? What investment do the European people want to see? What's the landscape over there?
Good question. I think that we need to think of Europe as a single economy, like America, and increase its competitiveness vis-a-vis the rest of the world. And of course, not by cutting wages, rather by reviving the internal market. In other words, make Europeans able to buy European goods independent of what country they're in, what state. So that's number one. And number two is, for example, thinking of Greece as a hub. Ports, shipyards, and then fast rail. And then build modern networks of fast rail all over Europe to promote trade. Likewise, you can use every country's advantage for the good of Europe as a whole.
Okay, Michael, we're going to a hard break. Let's continue this on the other side. You're listening to World Crisis Radio.
It's time to build your own emergency food stockpile with the industry leader, My Patriot Supply. Once you try them, you'll know why so many Americans like you have made them part of their emergency preparedness plan. Experience the My Patriot Supply difference today with this unbelievable offer. Right now, a 4-week food supply is only $99, and that includes free shipping. That's 50% off the online price. Call 800-274-3070 to claim yours. Limit 2 per caller while supplies last. This offer isn't available online, so you want to make sure and grab this opportunity to get prepared today. 800-274-3070 to get your 4-week food supply for the incredible price of only $99, and it'll be shipped to you completely free. Call 800-274-3070 right now. That's 800-274-3070 to claim yours while supplies last. Don't wait. Call today.
If the IRS has garnished your paycheck or seized money from your bank account, you need to get professional tax help now. Fast action is required to put a halt to these aggressive IRS collection tactics. You can count on the knowledgeable team of tax professionals at Wall & Associates. With over 30 years of experience, Wall & Associates has settled the tax problems of thousands of taxpayers for a small fraction of what they owed. For a free face-to-face consultation, call 1-800-425-4610 to put a wall between you and the IRS. 1-800-425-4610 or look for us on the web at wallandassociates.net. We solve tax problems. If you hire Wall & Associates today, you'll never have to talk to the IRS again. To stop the levies and seizures today, take action now. Call Wall & Associates at 1-800-425-4610. Wall & Associates. 1-800-425-4610. Based on actual cases, results may vary, not a solicitation for legal services.
So we decided to upgrade the look of our home.
Improve the curb appeal.
We decided to add the look of stone to the exterior.
We really like the stacked stone look.
Yeah, but when I checked into the price, it was ridiculous. No way could we afford it.
Then a friend told me about Genstone. Genstone.
Genstone comes in lightweight panels made of polyurethane. They've actually engineered the hassle out of installation. No mortar, no mesh. It was easy. Even I could do it.
We just screwed the panels to the wall and it looks like stone. I mean, it really looks like stone.
Yeah, from the box to the wall in minutes.
We love the look of our home now.
And Genstone is durable, comes with a 25-year warranty, and offers additional R value for insulation.
If you want the look of stone at a price you can afford, call Genstone.
At 855-955-STONE.
Trust me, you'll save money.
And you'll love the look.
855-955-STONE. That's 855-955-7866.
By now, you may have heard a bit about Bitcoins, but did you know Bitcoins are now over an $8.5 billion market? And did you know that over 65,000 businesses now accept Bitcoins? Listen, if you're already earning Bitcoins or trying to make money in the Bitcoin market, you've got to know bidbit.co. Why? Because bidbit.co is where you can easily receive Bitcoins by selling and auctioning off your own personal items or promote business products and services for Bitcoins. You heard right. Whether personal or business, you can now buy, sell, and auction your products and services quickly, easily, and securely for Bitcoin at bidbit.co, the first and only marketplace website to offer BidBit Escrow, a proprietary technology which gives buyers and sellers security and peace of mind because all transactions are protected. Start today. It's free to join, free to post, free to auction, and free to bid at bidbit.co. Buy, sell, bid, or auction everything Bitcoin. That's www.bidbit.co. bidbit.co.
Independently leading the way for the nation. Compelling talk for every political persuasion. We are GC.
Radio. Michael Chiotinas from Greece and I were just talking about banker tyranny, international banker tyranny. We're all subject to it. So what we need is to realize that we're all under banker tyranny.
Yes, we have been focusing on speculation rather than development. We in Europe and you in America.
Perfect. Michael, okay, so can you give us a view of how the euro came to be and how the bubbles grew to such an enormity that set the scene for the crisis? And what popped this bubble of runaway money from Germany? What happened there?
Well, that had to be the 2008 financial collapse. What else?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
right.
The markets, quote unquote, or certain groups of individuals associated with the markets decided that if the governments were going to bail out every banker who rings the finance ministry's doorbell, well, eventually you're going to have a crisis of public debt. So who was the weakest link in that respect? Of course, it was Greece. Now, in 2010, a speculative attack on its bond market deprived Greece of the ability to finance its public debt. In other words, the interest it had to pay in order to borrow became too high, and it couldn't afford to issue new bonds to repay the ones that were due. So Greece lost the ability to roll over its debt. At the time, the bulk of this debt was held by European banks, mostly German and French banks. What was normal to happen at that point was a Greek default and an inevitable haircut, along with a big investment program for all the weaker European states. But that would mean losses for the banks, and more importantly, possibly send a message to other weak European countries that they could do the same, meaning even more losses for the banks,
Yeah, I understand. I mean, the banks were huge, and I mean, they could handle losing some money, but that wasn't the issue. The issue, I think, was the banks had to send a message to the other small countries like Italy, Ireland, Spain, Portugal. The message: you kowtow to our austerity demands, or we'll not only attack your currency and bonds or your bond ratings, but we'll force you out of the economic union. What would happen if there was a haircut? Like, what would have happened if there was a haircut on the debts at that time in 2010?
Done by who? The government, such as those we have today, with the banking interest in mind. The panic triggered would certainly lead to a new round of bailouts for these banks, which was at the point very difficult politically. Now we all know how much recent governments in the Western world love to give free money to bankrupt banks. But a direct bailout was, I think, politically hard for any politician at that point.
So instead, the Greek government at